morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Last week, if you heard it, and I hope you did, we revisited a great interview I had with ranch wife, colt starter, bronc rider, all-round top hand Marlene Pegg. And that conversation was captured about 25 years ago. And today, we'll bring Marlene back for a fascinating look at her life now.
You didn't have to tell people what you could do. You could always show them because your horse was your living. Now, that has changed.
And there are some jobs that you really have a hard time doing yourself, as Baxter Black describes.
Peeling your rope off a steer's head in the middle of the pen. But to our credit, we get it done, and by ourselves if we have to.
Well, the main roadblock in the signing of the new NAFTA, now known as USMCA, may be starting to move. The details on the Rangeland News.
I'm encouraged. I think our friends here in Canada are looking forward to the completion of USMCA.
A cowboy artist gets way out of his comfort zone in the cowboy poetry spotlight.
As she pulled at her tresses, her heart began to throb as she pondered on the question she had been posing for young Bob.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, speaking of comfort zones, getting beyond an injury causing horse mishap might mean getting past the rider's comfort zone. And there's another old Western classic song, and there will be lots of discussion about Western art today. And you can hardly mention that subject without thinking of Charlie Russell.
In old St. Louis, over in Missouri, the mighty Mississippi, well, it rolls and flows. A son was born to Mary Russell, and it starts the legend every cowboy knows. Young Kid Russell was born to wander, ever westward he was bound to roam. Just a kid of 16 in 1880, up in wild Montana, he found his home. God made Montana for the wild man, for the pagan and the Sioux and Crow, but he saved his greatest gift for Charlie, saying get her all down before she goes. You gotta get her all down as she's bound to go. God hung the stars over Judith Basin. God put the magic in young Charlie's hands. And all was seen and all remembered, every shining mountain, every longhorn brand. He could paint the light on Horsehide shining, the great passing herds of the buffalo, and a cow camp cold on a rainy morning, and the twisting wrist of the hula hand throw. God made Montana for the wild man, for the pagan and the Sioux and Crow, but he saved his greatest gift for Charlie, saying get her all down before she goes. You gotta get her all down as she's bound to go. When the Lord called Charlie to his home up yonder, he said, Kid Russell, I got a job for you. You're in charge of sunsets up in old Montana, 'cause I can't paint them quite as good as you. When you're done, go out and have a few. But Dancing Russell make sure it's just two. God made Montana for the wild man, for the pagan and the Sioux and Crow. But he saved his greatest gift for Charlie, saying get her all down before she goes. You gotta get her all down as she's bound to go. Saying get her all down before she goes. You gotta get her all down as she's bound to go.
Ian Tyson's great tribute to Charlie Russell, The Gift. Well, the first time I met Marlene Pegg was about 25 years ago, as you heard last week. She doesn't ride broncs anymore. In fact, she doesn't ride anymore. But she is making use of another wonderful gift she had.
Oh, gosh, Marlene, so good to see you again. Like we were just saying, a few years ago, we got together at the Williams Lake Bull Sale, and you told me some wonderful cowboying stories, and I can't remember how long ago that was, probably in the mid-90s or something.
I believe so. That was when we were still out at Pelican Lake Ranch, and I had brought that horse in to sell at the Williams Lake Bull Sale.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
And you've had quite a journey since then, and now you were doing some artwork at that time, but you're deeply into that.
Not as much, Hugh. I had just basically focused on my horses and stuff. It wasn't until 2011 that I started in kind of thinking about doing art as a little bit more focused. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know how you describe your style, but it's a realism of some kind. Was there other painters or other styles that you looked at and thought, I think I can do that, or how did that?
You know, I think I wasn't really following anybody's particular style. I'm not a schooled artist. I'm kind of self-taught, and I can contribute that to my ponies. And when I say that, it's like when you've been around a horse and you get to know their inside and the whole business, then when you see them, like there is never a horse or never anything that I look at that I don't see it for what it is. And as horsemen as we are, we look for every little detail. Every little detail is important to us, because you would no more throw that saddle on and not check your back cinch, and you would not check your hobble, and your eye goes casted over everything. Everything has to be there. And when I go into the painting and that, it's the same thing. As offbeat as this may sound, when I paint, I can smell my horse. Mm-hmm. I can feel it. I can touch it. I can also go into the feeling of being there. Like, I can't tell you how that is, and no wonder I get excited at 3 o'clock in the morning and want to get up and paint, because it's a way to relive my life.
Well, when you look at, for example, the painting you've got here at the art show at the Cowboy Festival, if you're a horseman, you can recognize so much of that. The painting you've got of Ada Branding and a beautiful, very dark-colored horse and a rider. And it seems to me he's in a full bridle with reins and romal, and dallied up, dragging a calf by two hind feet. And you look deeply into the expression on that horse. I mean, I looked into that horse's eyes, and wow, I could read so much into that. I could feel, exactly probably what you were feeling.
What I was feeling.
And isn't that what art is?
Isn't that what art is? Exactly, Hugh. It's an interpretation of your life.
Today's update visit with Marlene Pegg continues when the Spirit of the West returns right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Those of us who have been incredibly blessed by being able to spend endless hours horseback in the beautiful rangeland of the West, I think work hard on never taking it for granted, because there are no guarantees that we'll always be able to do it. Marlene Pegg is back this week with an update to a wonderful conversation we had right here about 25 years ago.
Your background with horses always amazes me. I mean, the things you used to do.
Yes, that was then, and I hope, and like now is now. Of course, I can't do it anymore. But you know what? You never lose the desire. That desire is always with you. And even though your road takes some other little turns in it because of whatever health issues, of course, changes it all up for us. But the nice part of it all is that when we can come back and revisit it in a different way. And like I say, when one gift is gone, another one comes. And we just have to be open for it, that's all.
And you used to do everything. I mean, you roped, you worked cattle, you started colts, you rode broncs. I mean,
rode broncs, drove
and no
teams.
horse intimidated you?
Absolutely not. I actually, you know, this is kind of crazy. My husband would say, Marlene, he says, I don't understand. He says, a horse can be as big and as carry on as whatever, and you don't even show a whimper of feeling, you know, intimidated by this. But he says, a mouse runs across the floor and you lose it.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, well, it's like this. There's just some phobias in life, and horses weren't.
Definitely not one of them.
Doesn't want to get me down.
Yeah.
No.
And at what changed then? At what point and what happened?
Well, I ended up, after riding so many rough horses, my back couldn't take it anymore. And it basically herniated my discs and that kind of stuff, so that left me. I spent a lot of time counting ceiling tiles and stuff, and it was really a sad thing, because I felt like instead of being a contribution to life, I felt like I was somebody's burden. And that wasn't a great feeling. And as anybody that has any injuries or has to kind of step back from being the person that goes out and does things to not, you have to change thought patterns. But the wonderful thing that has been said to me was this, was the fact that you have given us so much. Let us give back to you. Give us a chance. And that really hit home with my family, you know. And I started to realize, yes, I guess I can allow them to do things for me too, you know.
The hooves of the horses, witching and sweet, is the music earth steals from iron-shod feet. No whisper of lover, no trilling of bird can stir me as hooves of the horses have stirred. They spurn disappointment, they trample despair, and drown with their drum beats the challenge of care. With scarlet and silk for their banners above, they're swifter than fortune, sweeter than love. On the wings of the morning they gather and fly. In the hush of the nighttime I hear them go by. Horses of memory thundering through, flashing white fetlocks all wet with the dew. When you lay me to slumber, no spot you can choose, but will ring to the rhythm of galloping shoes. And under the daisies no grave be so deep for the hooves of the horses to sound in my sleep. For the hooves of the horses to sound in my sleep.
I don't know anyone who is a true horseman that has heard that song that hasn't really fallen in love with it. Wiley in the Wild West. And now back to Marlene.
This cowboy pride, like we were just talking about, is such a tough thing to kind of let go of. And a lot of us are getting to the stage where, you know, you've been able to deal with horses like this for years, never given up on a horse, and the time comes when physically your reflexes just aren't quick enough anymore, but that's the last thing you want to admit to yourself, and it is so hard to let that go. You know, how do we handle that?
How do we do it? And that's the whole thing. It's quite a lot of talking to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And there's times, like I say, you go out and you kind of look at it and you say to yourself, well, okay, do I? And what becomes difficult with it is the fact that you always used to be out there. You didn't have to tell people what you could do. You could always show them because your horse was your living. Now that has changed. Now we have to talk about it or whatever. And sometimes you think, well, gee whiz, maybe I don't, you know, maybe I shouldn't say anything or hold it all in, as a lot of old cowboys did, because that was a tough thing for them to walk through. But I think we need to share this with our young people. We need to share what gift was given to us, to the young people, and by talking to them, encouraging them, being there for their support, that's important. It's important.
But you still have horses in your life.
Oh, my husband, I've got 4. I need, as long as I'm living, I'm going to have a horse on the place.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you know, even if you're just feeding them, they're there. You know, and like my husband, he's very active in the horse thing still. He brands, he goes branding, he works cattle in the summertime and all that good stuff. And so it gives us a connection. It gives us conversation to talk about all the time. Like, you can sit and we can travel for hours in the car, and you know what? That car is full with horse talk. Now, what person in the right mind can do stuff like that? I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking when you were saying that every time I get back from a ride, which is as often as I can possibly go, whether there's cows to move or not, my soul it just has to have that hoofbeat rhythm. There's something that happens when I'm out there on a good horse now, and 3 hours out on the trail, looking at the different tracks, seeing how the country has changed since 2 days ago, feeling that horse, and then when I get back and I'll sit down with Billy, all I can talk about is every subtle little thing that happened between that horse and I on that ride. You know?
Exactly.
Is this an affliction or what?
And you know, to have a partner that understands. Wow. That's what relationships are about.
And that makes all this other stuff not so important, really, doesn't it?
That's what I think, you know, and you always feel that you've rode a good horse. And, you know, to know that feeling, you know, how many people can really say that, Hugh?
For sure. And I want to get into detail about the wonderful Western art you are now creating, so let's do that in a little while. But first, Baxter Black is next with a look at the jobs that are really hard to do when you're by yourself. When the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at two-man jobs.
As cattle ranchers, we put up with the weather, the uncertain markets, the long hours, because we care for cattle. We gladly give up a night's sleep to keep a newborn calf alive. That's why we're embracing a product that minimizes the discomfort felt when necessary procedures are carried out. When calves are treated with meloxicam oral suspension at branding, the pain relief lasts a minimum of 56 hours. Talk to your vet and visit solvet.ca. Meloxicam, because it's the right thing to do. You know, there's a new way to treat scouring calves without using antibiotics. Ask your vet about charcoal kaolin oral paste.
So there I was, pulling on one end of the wire patching fence. The strand lay stretched tight in the claw of the hammer, which I had balanced against the post, bracing it with my leg. I sighted down the wire, peeking under my arm, and raised the wire half an inch. Perfect. I took the staple from my lips and set it against the post just behind the barb and reached for my pounding hammer, which lay exactly 3 inches beyond my grasp. Attempting to grab it, I imitated a contortionist trying to bite off his toenail, all to no avail. I turned to my assistant. Are you kidding? I had no assistant. It was just another case of one man doing a two-man job. Like you run the cow down the alley, nearly into the squeeze chute, manage to cram a piece of pipe behind her, and then run around the chute, open the head gate wide enough to entice her to come forward, close the tailgate, keeping one hand on the head lever. You try and kick her through the bars as she soles up and drops to all fours. I turned to my assistant. You've got both corner posts of the south side of your corral set and tamped. You stretch your line, dig a hole equidistant between them, and stick in the post. And then you prop the post up with the shovel and a cottonwood limb, and then walk back behind the first post for a sighting. It's too short and leaning to the west. You return to the offending post, kick in some dirt, carefully readjust the shovel and limb props, and then return for a second of what turns out to be 300 trips back and forth before you complete the job by yourself. Two-man jobs crop up often enough, especially when you're alone, hanging a 4x8 sheet of floppy paneling, leveling a cross beam between two uprights 8 feet off the ground, or peeling your rope off a steer's head in the middle of the pen. But to our credit, we get it done, and by ourselves if we have to. When I'm asked what my definition of a cowboy is, I reply, someone who can replace a uterine prolapse in a range cow in the middle of a 3-section pasture with nothing but a horse and a rope, which I think is fitting. We who work the land are that wonderful combination of cleverness, belligerence, and immunity to pain. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
Well, Uncle Mike, my little brother Jim, and I, known as the Amazing Western Spirit Band, will be doing a special show on April 24th at Withrow Church, Withrow, Alberta, close to Eckville, which is close to Red Deer. Show starts at 7 p.m., and our special guest will be the one and only Ben Crane. And for tickets, just go to bencrane.com/tickets. And speaking of Ben Crane,
Dale and me was checking cows in Saskatchewan sandy hills. Just a routine day ride, not seeking any thrills. We come up to a water hole, sat our mounts and looked around to see if in this herd any problems might be found. Well, sure enough, a spotted longhorn was limping in to drink, and we saunter over quiet like just to see what we would think. Sudden like she come alive, and 'cause Dale had got there first, the red dun he was riding seemed to undergo the worst. Old Longhorn rammed him from the side and done it 2 more times. Dale punched a hole and started into swinging his throat twine. Oh, he drops a head loop on them horns, as pretty as you please. I come up from behind to bring old Longhorn to her knees. Well, we stretched her out all right, and we doctored her foot rot. And then we let her up to go, and that's when things began to pop. On the prod again, this time she thinks she's really got excuse. She's still got a hind foot caught in my lariat noose. Oh, Longhorn's really seeing red now, she's getting sort of rank. We drop off of the grassy ground and down a sandy bank. With the law of gravity on her side, she gives Dale's horse a goose. I can hear my mount a wheezing just to keep up with the crew. And then my horse's front feet snagged and caught a root, and down he went. Now I'm somewhere right behind him, 'cause his gymnastics sent me through the air real graceful like. I landed just behind his hip. We must have dragged a ton of sand through that entire trip. Oh, Longhorn, she's the engine, and me, Oh, I'm the caboose. My britches is filling up with sand. Oh, I wish I could turn her loose. They say that a cowboy's always lived real close to the land. Well, that particular day, I think I finally came to understand. By now I weighed 400 pounds and I looked like a Michelin man, but that helped to slow the train down, and out of steam she ran. A little while later we could laugh about the gag, when I found a whole new meaning to the term ride and drag.
The news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says the biggest roadblock to the implementation of the new NAFTA, NAFTA's replacement, the USMC, has been U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. Well, there seems to be some movement on the part of the U.S., and from their perspective, here's Rod Bain from USDA.
It was a quick visit with government and agribusiness leaders of our neighbor to the north.
I'm encouraged. I think our friends here in Canada are looking forward to the completion of USMCA, just as we are.
Agriculture Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs Ted McKinney talking with reporters from Toronto, Canada, Thursday. The Undersecretary acknowledged part of the USMCA-related discussions were related to existing U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs in place and what it may mean in advancing the deal towards final approval.
The point has come up. Sometimes it's courteous and it's just an assertion they'd like to see happen. Sometimes it's a question.
And the reply of Undersecretary McKinney?
I think a lot of people hope for those to be removed, and the sooner the better. That process rests with our friends at USTR, but that in U.S. agriculture, there continues to be encouragement that those be removed as these whole things go along.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Terry Kremeniuk, the executive director of the Canadian Bison Association, said new transportation rules introduced by the federal government could be problematic. They could have somewhat of an impact, and we want to make sure it doesn't affect us in a negative manner, he said. The rules take effect in February of 2020, reducing travel time requirements from 48 hours to 36 hours for ruminants without feed and water. He said producers will also be watching the federal government's plans to introduce traceability, which will likely have a large impact on the bison industry. A rancher's ability to get compensation for livestock killed by predators remains a hot-button issue for many who've lost animals to predators that frequent the eastern slopes of the Rockies. Those who gathered for a meeting organized through the Carnivores and Communities program heard about potential progress to alter the compensation program. Jeff Bechtel, a Cardston area rancher and coordinator of the program, on behalf of the Waterton Biosphere Reserve, said Alberta government officials are talking with the Carnivore Working Group about changes it's proposed to the compensation program, but the process is in its most preliminary stage. But some of the changes they're looking at: compensation at 2.5 times the value of the animal confirmed killed, compensation of probable kills at 100% instead of 50% as it is now, compensation at 1.5 times the value of the animal if the producer can verify that it was purebred, compensation for guard animals killed by predators, and compensation for bulls at 1.75 times the Canvax call price at that time. It also suggests that if a predator kills a feeder yearling calf, owners should get the option of receiving value for the animal at time of death or taking the Canvax fall average price of a 950-pound animal. A Charolais Red Angus cross cow gave birth to 4 calves on Carmen Moxham's farm near Leroy, Saskatchewan on March 25th, and the total weight of the calves, 217 pounds, man. Now that's production. The Western College of Veterinary Medicine said it's about a 1 in 700,000 chance to have 4 calves born, live, and survive. So that pushes the cow, whose name is Dot, into the one in several millions category. And in case you missed it, Nick Dowers defeated two-time Road to the Horse world champion Vicky Wilson to take the 2019 colt starting competition in Lexington, Kentucky. Wildcard competitor Wade Black narrowly led the pack throughout the entire competition, allowing him to win the title and reserve his place as a main competitor at Road to the Horse in 2020. Meanwhile, three great Canadian horsemen, Cade Mills, Rod Olson, and Dale Clearwater, match up at the 2019 Main Event Trainers Challenge at the Westerner in Red Deer, starting on April the 26th. And we will be in Alberta, of course, at that time for the main event, for our cruise reunion, and for our show with Ben Crane. And let's see, on May the 11th, I'll be at Penny Bryn Farms, just outside of Kersley, BC, and you can see us there at a cowboy concert fundraiser for Lindsay Chung's marathon ride across France. And all of the proceeds for her projects go to wounded warriors. And then, of course, we'll be at the Stony Plain Cowboy Gathering, August 16th to the 18th in Stony Plain, Alberta. More to come about that, so stay tuned. Now, at the BC Livestock Producers Co-op, Kamloops Yards, there will be a spring saddle horse sale on April the 26th. Yeah, that's when we'll be in Alberta. Too bad I'm going to miss it. Anyway, you can get all the details at bclivestockcoop.bc.ca. And meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, there's a horse sale April the 22nd. Tax starts selling at 9. Horses come through at noon. Get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Now, the final item. My little brother Jim was in a bit of a panic the other day. He had locked his keys in his van, and his precious River Song guitar was inside. And we had to play for a group in about 20 minutes. Well, Mike and I got there as quick as we could, and Jim said he tried using a coat hanger, but that didn't work. And I said, well, we'll think of something. And he said, I sure hope so, because it's starting to rain and the sunroof is open. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a look at getting your confidence back after a riding mishap. And there's more from Marlene Pegg when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. When a rider gets injured in an incident involving a horse, could be anything. The horse spooks, jumps sideways, the rider comes off, or maybe the horse stumbles and goes down. It's sometimes pretty hard for the rider to get their confidence back. And I'll give a personal example or two on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File coming right up. First, though, here's something to take your mind off your troubles. Here's what a few folks have said about the Spirit of the West cruises.
We had a lot of fun. One of the best cruises I've been on with you.
I've already put my deposit down for the next year's cruise, so I'm sure we'll see you again.
Yeah, it's a good crowd.
I've met excellent people, and I couldn't ask for a better trip. The people were just like family. People look out for each other's, and it's great. It's great experience.
And they're just dedicated to helping you enjoy your holiday. I think that's what I really like about cruising.
That's what makes it so nice, is that there are so many folks that are from the background, the way we were brought up on farms and ranches.
Our 2019 cruise will be something we've wanted to do for a long time. August 29th, we'll fly to Dublin, Ireland. We'll visit an Irish thoroughbred breeding farm, be hosted by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation. Then we'll sail to some historic and beautiful places, Cork, Belfast, and then Glasgow and Inverness, Scotland. We might even get pictures of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And we'll have stops in Paris and London. Get all the information at 1-800-530-0131. And check out our Spirit of the West cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and our cruise Facebook page. Our big cruise reunion celebration gathering is coming up on April the 25th at the Westerner in Red Deer, Alberta, with a lot of folks who've been on our journeys with us over the last 17 years, and we'll have pictures and videos and refreshments and music from the Western Spirit Band and other members of our cruising cowboy bands, and we'd love to have you join us. You can RSVP at 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Dear Winter, we've had our moments together, the skiing, the sledding, all that pickup shinny at the local rink. But now it's time for a new fling with spring. And the place to suit up for this warm weather romance is Urban Tack and Western Wear. Exciting spring arrivals, something for everyone. It's Western Wear with a welcome twist. Plus, Urban's has expanded yet again, so there's more than ever before. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Don't just wear it, live it. Urban Tack and Western Wear.
I have talked with quite a few riders who've had a bad experience with their horse and suffered an injury that resulted in a loss of confidence. And when they got back to riding, they had recovered physically, but they still had to work through a lot of anxiety and even fear about getting into some kind of wreck. Now, when they get back on and try riding, many of them say their mind goes to thoughts like, what if he stumbles and goes down? What if he spooks? What if a dog comes running out of the bush? And those thoughts control the way they ride. Now, I've read a few articles that say don't let anyone push you past your comfort zone. Take all the time you need. Just hanging out with your horse, groom him, brush him. Don't even try to ride until your confidence is back. Well, I'll share something really personal here, and that's not really how it worked for me. I was recovering from some surgery, and the doctor said absolutely no riding for at least 6 weeks. Well, 6 weeks after that, I got back on a horse that needed some riding, and he could be a little spooky. So I made sure Billy was riding there with me on a good solid horse, and that gave me a lot of comfort. But I got to admit, I was a little tentative. But after an hour or so of riding the trails and climbing the hills, I was feeling much better, and my horse was settling down quite nicely. We were heading down a long, winding trail through the bush. When my gelding's head came up and I felt him tighten all through his body, his eyes got wide, he snorted, and I looked back up the trail, and about 35 black yearling heifers were running down the trail towards us from behind. And my poor horse nearly lost it. His instincts kicked in. I got a deep seat, grabbed my left rein, and brought it in towards the saddle horn, and finally got his hindquarters disengaged, and I was able to funnel that energy into about 7 or 8 bouncy turns on the forehand, and the heifers went on by, and then I let them straighten out, and we followed the heifers down the trail. And Billy, bless her heart, says, "Looks like you can still handle that." And I thought, yeah, I guess I can. And from that point on, my confidence was back. And I think for a lot of folks, not everyone, but sometimes the only way you can get over that fear is to conquer it in that kind of a situation. Going past your comfort zone is scary, but I think, and it's just my opinion again, it's the best way for the horse and rider to get to a higher level of trust and strengthen their connection. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Boy, our horses sure do well on that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration, and you can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. I want to continue the visit with Marlene Pegg and talk about the wonderful Western painting she does now. And to lead into that, Donnie Blance has written an interesting song about the way some Western artists portray the women of the West. And the name of the song is Paint Her Real.
Now if you want to paint a picture of the daily life of a mother and a Colorado rancher's wife, then take your brush and paint your canvas indigo blue, 'cause that's the color of the morning sky at 5:02. Paint her standing at the stove in a flannel robe, trying to pack her kids into their winter clothes. But don't you paint her riding through some clover field. What she wants from you is to tell the truth, so paint her real. And if you want to capture how her long hard day begins, in the snow up to her knees, down at the cattle pens, Then take your brush and paint your canvas snowy white, and dot it with the shades of Charolais cattle hides. Paint her helping break the ice at the water holes, or trying to breathe the life into a stillborn calf's nose. But don't you paint her on that bank with a rod and reel. What she wants from you is to tell the truth, so paint her real. Now if you want a portrait of the way life really is, then it should be a rendering that has no end. So take your brush and paint your canvas cinnamon red. The sun goes down and another cold night lies ahead. Paint a picture of the full moon high above. Paint her working side by side with the cattleman she loves. Don't show her on some dance floor kicking up her heels. What she wants from you is to tell the truth, so paint her real. All she needs from you is to tell the truth, so paint her real.
And that's what Marlene Pegg does for sure. And if we can just get off the subject of good horses for a minute, we'll talk about your wonderful Western art.
And there's been many that have gone under our saddles, and we know that, and I know that. And there's some that you kind of go, well, maybe he needs a different type of home.
Yeah.
He's not wanting to whatever, but we make the best of them. Mm-hmm. We take every horse that we come in contact and we bring the best out in them. And, the rest kind of, I guess that's the way it is. We know the difference, let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah. The years teach us that. Now, where can people see your paintings? Where's the...
Well, our house is our gallery, and anybody is welcome to come and see it. I've shown it in different galleries. I've done the Quesnel, and I do the Art Walk in Williams Lake, and I've had some paintings in Vancouver and stuff. But, my house is, I need bigger walls now.
Yeah. Have you done any big art shows in the States?
No, I haven't. No, I'm not a person to go across the line.
I'm afraid they won't let me back.
I kind of think about that. I kind of oh, no.
What about places like the Calgary Stampede?
That would be so amazing. But, to have an invite to something like that would be way over the top honoring, for sure. As being here at the Kamloops art show, you would not believe how rewarding it is for me to place my art amongst these beautiful artists. Like, it is just like breathtaking to me. I walk into that room and I look at those pieces of art that here I am, just this old cowgirl, sticking their art in there and feeling it may have a place. That's breathtaking.
Oh, man. Do you have a website or a place where people can see it, or a Facebook page or anything like that?
Absolutely no technology in this old cowgirl. I'm sorry. It's a telephone. It's a conversation on the phone and the personal thing. I'm just not. I don't know. I guess I haven't upgraded myself.
Well, if someone sees a painting of yours and they're very interested in it, they just contact you?
They just contact me. I believe that because I've done art things and stuff like that, I think on some sort of deal that it comes up, I guess, and some of my artwork is shown there. I don't know. I don't know how these computers go, but that's how they do it.
Well, it's so great to see you with that gift you've got now. And I'll tell you, your art should be displayed everywhere. And I just hope you keep doing it for as long as I keep riding.
Oh, that is very kind, and it just makes me feel wonderful. And what a wonderful chance to relive my life. Thank you.
So good to see you again, Marlene.
Good to see you, Hugh. Keep riding good horses.
Okay, great.
And we will have some of Marlene's paintings on our front page at hugh-mclennan.com and try and get some up on our Facebook pages. And you might find some at this link. It's artists.ca/show/2018_limitless. But the best way to contact her is by phone, and I'll give you the number, 250-747-1959. Coming up, the wonderful voice of Johnny Western with this week's classic song. Then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. It was called one of the greatest westerns of all time. Came out in 1956, and ever since then, film critics have lamented the fact that John Wayne did not win an Oscar for his role in The Searchers. Remember the opening scene?
From the thrilling pages of life rides a man you must fear and respect. A man whose unconquerable will and boundless determination carved a lusty, rough, and boisterous slice of history called The Searchers.
The music was a big part of the movie and the story, but it's certainly not a musical. The theme was written by Stan Jones, and 3 of Stan Jones's songs, Ghost Riders in the Sky, the theme from The Searchers, and Cowpoke, were chosen by the members of the Western Writers of America as being among the top 100 Western songs of all time. The Sons of the Pioneers sung the theme over the opening credits in the movie, and this version is from one of Stan Jones' best friends, Johnny Western.
What makes a man to wander? What makes a man to roam? What makes a man leave bed and board and turn his back on home? Right away, right away, right away. A man will search for fortune of silver and of gold, the silver he finds in his head, while an aching heart grows cold. Right away, right away, right away, right away. Now me, I go on searching for where there ain't no hate, for a tender love I'm dreaming of before it gets too late. Right away, right away, right away. Right away, right away, right away.
The Sons of the Pioneers, of course, backing up Johnny Western on the theme from The Searchers. And we'll have some big news about the Sons of the Pioneers with Dusty Rogers Jr. coming to Western Canada. Stay tuned. Now, we've been talking quite a bit about Western artists today, and for the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, here's Bill McCallie and the story of a young, aspiring cowboy artist who wound up way out of his comfort zone.
Now, every cowboy has a hobby, just to pass his idle time, hunting, fishing, or golfing, or sometimes just writing down a rhyme. Now, these things are all important to round out the cowboy's life. calm him down and help subdue all that doggone inner strife. Now, old Bob, he was a drover and a roper quite the best. The art was Bobby's hobby, though it sure gave his soul a rest. He'd rope and drove all week long till the weekends come around, then he'd take his little easel and ride old Gallo into town. He'd set his easel up and he'd spread his oil paints all around. He'd paint some pretty pictures of the landscape and the town. Well, he had been painting all morning long, and he finally stopped to think. He said, "You know, it's hot out here and I'm thirsty. I think I'll get myself a drink." So he ambled into Rosebud's, and on a stool he sat. His forehead was a-dripping and his shirt was wringing wet. Now the barmaid was a vintage queen and a master of her craft. She asked Bob what he wanted, and Bob simply ordered a draft. She brought his beer, and with a smile she sort of fondled his right arm. She blinked her eyes, and in a flash she was turning on the charm. Now Bob was a real fine cowboy, and as an artist he was great. But when it came to women, Bob was somewhat second-rate. See, his body was in second gear, his mind it was in first. Her mind was on his body, but Bob's mind was on his thirst. "What's that, paint on your hands? Are you a painter?" she inquired. He said, "Why, yes, ma'am, I'm an artist. I paint anything desired." As she pulled at her tresses, her heart began to throb. As she pondered on the question she had been posing for young Bob. "Would you paint me in the nude?" she asked, as her face began to blush. Bob's face turned red, and his reply broke the barroom hush. He said, "Well, yes, ma'am, I'll be glad to if you won't get in a rush, and let me leave my boots on so's I'll have somewhere to stick my brush."
Thanks again for making the ride, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to the Spirit of the West official support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. If you're looking for tractor parts, any make, any year, see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. And there's great reading in every issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or call them at 1-800-943-7336. And now you can find every Spirit of the West program on YouTube. If you enjoy it, I hope you'll subscribe. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.